I just saved this absolutely destroyed Toyota Tundra from the scrapyard. It doesn't run, there's immense body damage, but I think it's savable. This here is a 2002 Toyota Tundra with the legendary 2UZ 4.7 liter V8. Although the body is garbage, there's green spray paint that mismatched, there's immense amounts of body damage, self-tapping screws holding windows shut, the rear window is missing altogether, there's no tailgate, it's just haggard as could be, and on top of that, the interior is disgusting. Just be glad you can't smell this because it is genuinely horrible. Not only that, but the steering column was torn apart, the ignition was drilled out of it, and it was hot wired. But it's got a clean and clear title, so I'm not really worried about that. What I bought this thing for was the engine and drivetrain. So let's pop the hood. Yes, that is the hood pop, and see what's going on in the engine bay. This is why I bought this truck. The legendary drivetrain. This is a 1,000,000-mile engine. They are notorious for being incredibly reliable, but they have one Achilles heel. They're a timing belt engine, meaning that there is a rubber belt that times the cams to the crankshaft, and they have a tendency to fail if you don't replace them every 90 to 100,000 miles. What I was told is he was driving home, all of a sudden the engine completely died, cut out, no more power, and when he went to go crank it up, it would just spin. He said it spun really fast, sounded like it was wanting to do something, but it would never catch, it would never fire, and it never ran again. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop this thing apart, we're gonna check the timing belt out, see if the timing belt in fact broke, which is what I think happened, and we're gonna try and get this thing running again. I think it will need a little bit more than just a timing belt, especially considering there's no battery terminals and the wiring in here is pretty janky, to say the least. This is what I'm working with. I've got a good 2UZ timing belt that I had sitting on the shelf. I've got a simple socket set, my 90-degree impact, some rags, and a drain pan because we're gonna be draining this radiator and I don't wanna be pouring that all over the ground. Confirmed. This thing definitely has a broken timing belt. Looks like it was replaced semi-recently because you can still see all of the markings on it. But this is definitely a broken timing belt. That means we're going down the right path, so I'm going to continue tearing this thing down, get the timing belt completely removed, make sure there's no other broken components, and we'll get this thing back up and going in no time. It's a pretty good feeling. It gives me a lot of motivation that we're actually going to be getting this thing running by the end of the day. Got everything torn down, the old timing belt pulled out of there, and everything looks pretty decent. None of the pulleys are super destroyed. All of the idlers and the water pump spin free, so there's no like binding there. I'm not exactly sure what happened with the timing belt, but it's pretty ripped up. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if it got bent too hard during shipping or transport or install or what's going on, but this new timing belt should be good to go. And we can throw this on, get it in time, and then we're gonna have to start dealing with this wiring fiasco in order to see if this thing will start. We're missing 4 major fuses, 2 relays, and 3 small fuses, bare minimum. Not sure what we're missing on the inside of the truck either, but it's just kind of a rat's nest of wiring, so that'll be a task in itself. But for now, I'm gonna continue getting this timing belt on, get a battery over here, and we'll start digging into it. Got everything in time, the crank, both cam pulleys, the belt's on there. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna re-tighten up this tensioner so that we've got good tension on the belt, and hopefully it's all good to go. I'm then going to find a battery to throw in this thing, and we're gonna see if we can get it to crank over and start up. I'm also gonna need to find some fuses. I went ahead and I grabbed a bunch of random fuses from a parts rig, and I'm just gonna start putting them in holes till we get something figured out, throw a battery in this thing, and hopefully it cranks over. Yep, that's about that. I think that's power. Nervous. I don't know how this is gonna go. No power yet. Vice grips for terminals. Now, is there any power? I don't know how to know if there's any power. Seems like there's no power. Well, the battery I grabbed was dead, so I went ahead and I grabbed another battery. This one is for sure not dead. So I'm gonna rehook it up, and hopefully this time we get more than nothing. Okay, that's something. It's also something. Every time I touched the negatives to the battery, it tried to start, and that is because all of these wires were just twisted together. So, not exactly sure which one's which, but I do know that they cannot all be twisted together, because that equals it trying to start all the time. Okay. Look at that. So, does everything need to be together? Let's make sure this thing's in park. Okay, well, green is the start signal. Oh, we get a first look. This thing only has 176,000 miles. They destroyed this thing in 176,000 miles. Oh, oil pressure builds. I don't know if it's getting fuel. So that's gonna be step number one, find out if this thing has any fuel pressure. And not a drop of fuel came out. So, that's bad news, bears. I cracked a fuel line open and there was no fuel pressure at all. So, I've got me some brake clean and we're gonna see if we can get this thing to fire up. I'm just gonna open the butterfly, spritz some brake clean in, and see if she fires. That'll tell me if there's any bent valves. And hopefully it idles for just a second. That'll give me more of an idea how healthy this engine is. Spritzed some brake clean in there. Now let's see what happens. Oh! Oh! It fired up! I'm fired up! Yes! This is a good engine, and with 175,000 miles, I'll bet it's a good trans. Well, we got it running off of brake clean. I went to go put a little bit of fuel in it, and unfortunately discovered that the previous owner decided it would be a good idea to drill a hole in the tank. That's right. They drilled a hole in a $200 tank for probably $25 worth of fuel. Frustrating. So, since I'm not gonna be able to get this thing running off of fuel right away, might as well get that engine bay put back together at least halfway, so that we don't have parts everywhere, and go from there. I don't want to put it all the way back together, because if I use this thing for a drivetrain swap, which I kind of want to do, I will in fact put a brand new timing belt water pump kit on it. But for now, since it runs with this timing belt water pump, I'm going to put it back together most of the way and just ready to run for a minute.
We got this engine bay pretty well wrapped up. Everything's back together, and we're ready to start assessing this fuel issue. All right, and since the engine bay is now together, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna jump under this thing, and we're gonna see about how I can plug up the hole. I'm gonna start by just cutting the plastic around the hole that's in the tank now, and seeing about somehow plugging the hole without dropping the tank, just because I don't want to deal with dropping the tank in the dirt, and see if I can get it running, test the transmission, test the four-wheel drive. Got a few different ideas of what I want to do with this thing, and all of them involve having a good running drivetrain with four-wheel drive. I'm not sure if I want to possibly put this drivetrain into a different chassis or put a different body on top of this chassis. Either way, I'm going to need this drivetrain to run good, so I'm going to get working on that. Let me know in the comments down below what you would do. Would you drop a cool older 50s, 60s, 70s truck onto this chassis, have a new modern million-mile drivetrain with good four-wheel drive independent suspension that rides good? Or would you take this engine and transmission and drop it in something like, say, a 97 4Runner? Look at this, it runs. It runs off of the fuel pump. All I did was take a riv knot and clog the 2 holes that the previous owner drilled in the fuel tank. So now let's see if it drives. The speedo works, so it's even got an accurate 170 some odd thousand miles. Oh, it pulled me up this hill, so it's even got working four-wheel drive. Oh man, the driver door doesn't want to shut all of a sudden. This thing, I mean the driver door shut earlier today. There we go. Look at this! I got a driving Tundra. That's cool. Now I gotta see how good of a burnout it does. Let's see, we're in 4. Well, hang on, let's see if 4 low works. Oh dang, 4 low works. All right, will you come out of four-wheel drive for me? There we go. Now let's see what it does for burnouts. The LSD works! What? I'm stoked. This thing went from a truck that was destined to go to the scrapyard to a running, driving rig that I could register and hit the streets with. But it's a little rough around the edges, so I don't think that's what I want to do. I think I'm either going to take the engine and transmission out of this thing and stuff it into a 90s 4Runner to make the ultimate overlanding rig, or take the cab off of this chassis and put something cool on this chassis, like a 60s, 70s, or maybe even early 80s truck. I'd have modern suspension, a modern drivetrain that's insanely reliable, and it'd be really cool to have the retro look. Let me know what you'd like to see down below in the comments, or if you've got any cars you'd like to see swapped onto this chassis. I'm open to suggestions. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and I sure hope to catch you on the next one.